computer. Let me press got it. Ah,
You're gonna record your story?
We have
There it
this one
goes.
was married to Marilyn and they got divorced. And the second one was Marilyn and they both had the same last initial,
Hmm.
which was M. So the brother referred to his batches of M&Ms.
All right. Let me change the settings. I had it set for shofar blowing. Let me get rid of the shofar blowing setting. Mhm.
Are we teaching that now too?
No, it was our first day of shofar blowing this morning, and Zoom can't handle reverberation. If anyone tried to come on Friday night to the Zoom service, it blew up because of the amplifier. No one could hear anything. If you came to the comedy music rock band night on Zoom, no one could hear anything. So shofar is also a problem on Zoom. It gets cut off when someone plays shofar. Yeah.
But you know what, too, when Rick was like standing up, when you stand up and you are up here, what happens is your volume bounces, your sound bounces
Off
back
your
up
stomach.
back up.
You're right. All right, here it goes. The story of when Rabbi Alex met Rabbi Amy. Okay, I'm telling you, you've heard the story before. Yeah, hear it. Once upon a time, a long time ago, I leave Michigan State University, go to Los Angeles, Bel Air, California, and that's where rabbinical school started, on the top of Bel Air, beautiful area. I'm in rabbinical school. We start the first week. The first week is like an orientation week, and then we have classes. And every morning you have services, and after the service, they'll do some kind of teaching you how to be a rabbi thing. So like the first day was, a moil came and taught us how to be a moil. Now my father's a moil, and that moil was like, you're serious and you don't laugh. And my father makes people feel comfortable. So I got in a fight with the moil the first day. But then the second day, I think it was the second day, comes along and they bring in this is California. They bring in a meditation expert. Okay, so here it goes. So we're in class. There's about 20 of us in rabbinical school at the time. It's probably the second day of school. And we bring, and I don't know Amy at all, because Amy sits in the front row and I sit in the back row. Amy sits in the front row paying attention and taking notes, and I sit in the back row talking and playing cards. So I've never met Amy before. I don't even know what she looks like, really, because she's in the front row. I only see back of heads, because those are the nerds. And so, so what happens is we go to school services that morning, and then they bring this meditation expert in, and she teaches us like how to, meditate. And we all go into different corners of the room, and we all, do our meditation thing. Of course, not me. We come back. And Ted is still in a corner. Ted's one of the rabbinical students. And Ted does not come out of his meditation corner. He completely goes catatonic, and he's just, like hyperventilating in a corner. We can't get him out because he's, out. So we have to call the paramedics, 911, and we have to bring the paramedics because, I guess it was high pressure for people who cared. So what happens is, the two Amy's. Now, the other Amy is actually Amy Bardak, who works for Federation in Squirrel Hill, but she was in our rabbinical class too. Now, she sat in the middle of the room, so we knew Amy. So she was Amy number one. Don't tell this to our Amy. She was Amy number two. She hates that, but she was Amy number two. So the two Amy's stayed with Ted. The paramedics came, and we all went up to breakfast. So I'm in breakfast, and all the other rabbinical students bring me like these two big to-go boxes, and they said, Alex, since you did nothing to help, why don't you bring the two breakfasts down to the Amy's? So I go down, and they're still there. The paramedics are still there, and the door is closed. And I'm like, I have these breakfasts for, the women in there. And they're like, well, you can't come in. I said, what, do you want the breakfast? And I gave the paramedics the breakfast, and I went back to class, because, I can't do anything. So I go up to class, and, class is getting started. And so someone says, so Alex, did you get the Amy's, the breakfast? And I said, well, I tried, but, they couldn't, Ted was still out, and the paramedics and the firefighters are there, and they were trying to pull Amy off of Ted. She was trying to revive him, and she was giving him CPR and mouth to mouth. And all of a sudden, someone from the front row says, that's not, What?
Amy was, one of
No,
the. Amy's-
no, I'm making up the story.
Oh, oh.
Okay, so that's not happening. Okay, that's a made up story. So all of a sudden, someone in the front row says, that's not true. Now, it was such a ridiculous story that of course it wasn't true, but who says that's not true? Someone who's not, she's my straight man. So I say, oh my God, it's so true. They had to bring the jaws of life in, and
That's
and
the far
so
aspect.
Amy comes up from the front of the room, starts walking back. I keep going, making fun of her, even though I've never met her before, and she strangled me. And that's how I met Amy. That was our
Never heard.
that was
story.
our first interaction, was her strangling me and me picking on her. And then we became study partners. And then a few months later, she realized I don't study. And that's how we started. Okay.
Wait, hold on. This brings up two questions here.
Yeah.
Clarify, you never dated Amy Bardak, right?
I never dated Amy Bardak because all my Amy's spelled their name differently. There's A-I-M-E and A-M-I-E-E and and then I got an A-M-Y, which is the Mustaches one. Amy Bardak is also an A-M-Y. So that would have broken my streak.
I'm glad to hear this.
Yeah,
So
no.
second of all, whatever happened to Ted?
So, okay. So I've been telling this story for 28 years, actually like 32 years or something. So 32 years I've been telling the story about Ted. And Amy is like, remember how I said Amy's always afraid of going to jail and stuff? She always is afraid of like, what if we, see these people? I'm like, it's a big world. So she doesn't tell the story as much as I do. Okay, so I'm in APAC, right back before it lost its mind. And I'm in APAC, and I'm at an APAC convention, and this guy comes up to me and Amy, as we're at a convention, and he's talking to us, and he walks away, and Amy goes, that's Ted. I said, that's not Ted. I go, there's a lot of Teds in the world. And, we haven't seen the guy in 30 years or something like that. It can't be Ted. So we Google this guy, and we find out that the guy who's my handler, so he's the APAC rabbi handler for Pittsburgh, is Ted, and he's from the original story. It's the Ted, because his resume says that he went to rabbinical school for a year and he took a couple of years off because he took a couple of years off, and then he got back on track, and now he works for APAC. And Amy and I saw him like the year before the pandemic started for the first time since and so I sent him a message going, well, Amy and I, because then we felt like rude, so we're like, were you the same Ted who was in our class? He's like, I was there for a week or something. And then, I took some time off, but it was him. So we did it. It was the same.
So Rabbi Amy made Ted want to quit rabbinical school is what you're telling me.
No, Amy was a good person. No.
You embellish this story further. His meditation caused him to want to leave rabbinical school.
That's right.
So did Ted go on to become a rabbi?
So he did not become a rabbi. He became a rabbi handler for APAC.
So what's a rabbi handler?
They try to talk us into giving sermons and giving money.
No.
Yeah,
This is all because of the meditation experience. I like it.
Yeah, that's it.
That a lot happened at that one moment in time. I can see right now,
It's true. But we have a class today. It's 10 minutes
Hey,
late.
you should tell Ted if it wasn't for him, you guys would never have gotten married.
I want to tell him that, but I think it was a traumatic moment for him, so we didn't bring up that moment. Yeah,
And you didn't invite him to the wedding, did you?
no, never thought I would ever see him again, and now
And you never named the kid after Ted.
he's a sweet boy. Okay, we're getting started. And Neil, we're getting some feedback from your computer, so I'm muting you. Okay, here it goes. All right, it's Neil's fault. Here it goes. We're getting started. It's 10:11, and today's topic is the chosen people. The chosen people. I probably should put the topic on as we get closer. I could tell you next time what the topic is because I actually wrote it down. But here it goes. Today is the chosen people topic, and so we're going to get started because small talk was me talking, so that's cheating. But here it goes. When you talk to Jews about the chosen people, okay, let's see how we do back there. Good. Okay. So that when you talk to Jews about the chosen people, most Jews apologize for being the chosen people. So stop it, Neil. Bad. Okay. So he's the student in the back of the class. So the idea is that throughout history, we have different forms of literature. And one form of literature is apologetics. And one of the most famous apologetics, a form of literature, is the chosen people concept in Judaism. Why? Probably because they kill us, right? No one wants, what Christianity comes along and says, we're the new Jews, right? Ann Coulter, I'm the new Jew, right? We replaced the Jews. And then Islam comes along and says, we're the new Jews, right? So each religion, now it's no fun when you're the new something and the old one's still around. So the best way to do is get rid of the old one, right? The original Jews who follow Jesus were Jews, and then Jesus comes along, and then people say, hey, Jesus is the new religion. Now, if they succeeded in killing us all, they probably call themselves Jews, because they didn't succeed. Now there's Jews and Christians. So what we do throughout history is apologize for being the chosen people because we don't like a target on our back. And so what are the most famous apologetics in Jewish history? Okay, God chooses us to be a treasured people among all the nations. Here's probably the number one story. In the Torah, it says, it's a really boring little line in the Torah. It says, and God went from here to here to here, and then came to Mount Sinai or something like that. It's kind of like about our travels. But what do the rabbis say? The rabbis, here, I'll put on my chat box just to see if anyone is saying something. Okay, now, so nothing important. Now, so what happens is the rabbis say, God, in this story you probably have heard of, okay? This story is that God went to all the different people of the world, offered them the Torah, and they all said no. God went to the Edomites and says, will you take my Torah? And the Edomites say, what's in it? And God says, do not steal. Oh, we like stealing. Oh, we went to the Ammonites and said, will you take my Torah? And the Ammonites said, what's in it? And it says, don't sleep with your sister. Well, that's how we started. Oh, can't do it, be an Ammonite. So everyone in the world is offered the Torah. They all say no. And then finally, God comes to the Israelites, and the Israelites say, Naaseh v'nishma. We will do and we will hear. It's a line from the Torah, Naaseh v'nishma. We will do, Naaseh v'nishma, we will hear, or we'll understand. By the way, the doing comes before understanding, which is another form of, rabbi talk. But what happens is, we take the chosenness concept, and yes, we're the chosen people, but we are God's last choice. Okay, so that's one. Number two, and this is the more popular way of saying it, we're not the chosen people, we're the choosing people. We chose God, right? Instead of God chose us, we chose God. We're the choosing people. So those two concepts, the chosenness concept is that we're not better than anyone else, right? As much as everyone should think they're great, right? I usually tell that friend, my friend who gets drunk and gets mean, I tell different stories about him. And one of the times where he's recently divorced, we're sitting at a bar, he's drinking, he looks at me, and there's 5 of us who graduate high school together. We still hang out once a year, except for the pandemic. And he says to me, he goes, Alex, I think I'm better than all of you. And I said, he's drunk. And I go, Jason, we all think we're better than everyone else. We just don't tell that to each other. I said, no one should go around saying, oh, I think he's better than me and he's better than me. Usually you think pretty good about yourself. So, but you don't tell that to everyone when you meet them. It doesn't go well. But I said, most people should be proud of the religion, right? If you think that another religion is better than your religion, then go to the other religion. The synagogue, another rabbi, who, you have a choice, right? So if you don't, so the idea that, we as Jews think Judaism is great, of course we should think that. And if we think that, Catholicism or baptism or, Buddhism is better, then go. But the idea is, yes, we think that chosenness shouldn't be superiority. We shouldn't be thinking we're better than everyone else. We're a different, some religions maybe, but not ours. The choice becomes, and the chosenness becomes almost an embarrassment to some. But I think it's more of fear than embarrassment. That, or what did Tevye say in Fiddler on the Roof? God, I know we're the chosen people, but once in a while, can you choose someone else right after a pogrom, right? So sometimes it feels like the choice is a bad choice. So chosenness, and then here's another one where if you take it too far, the problem is that you kind of get stuck. So a popular answer of, oh, we're not better than everyone else, is that instead what we say is, let me help that out before something happens. Perfect. Okay. So another way of saying it is everyone has a role in the world. Jews, Christians, Muslims, everyone has a role. No one's better than someone else. If say being a doctor is a good thing. We think being a doctor is a good thing. But if every single human being in the world is a doctor, the world couldn't exist. We need electricians and maybe lawyers, maybe rabbis, but we need lots of different people in the world to make the world work. And so Judaism does not believe everyone should be Jewish. That if everyone in the world was Jewish, the world would be a bad place. I promise you, it would be a living hell. So the idea in Judaism is we don't believe everyone should be Jewish. Jews have a role in the world. Now, the problem with that is if you start pushing me on what is our role, it's going to still sound superior, because I'll tell you a story. So you've heard this story too in some other class. I die and I go to the pearly white gates. I don't know. I get it. I'm going to heaven somehow. So I go there and there's a big line to get in. There's a big gate somehow and a big white gate. And you knock on the door and the guy in front of me said, and the guy goes, "Why should I let you in?" And the person in front of me says, "I did nothing wrong my entire life." And he's like, "Come on in." So I'm like, I know the secret words. So I'm like, I knock on the door, "Let me in." Yeah. And the guy says, "Why should I let you in?" I go, "I did nothing wrong my entire life. You can't come in." "Why can't I come in?" "Because I'm Jewish." And Judaism says it's not enough to not do bad your whole life. You've got to do good. You've got to leave the world better than you started. Everyone else's job in the humanity's job is to not make the world worse. The Jews' job is to make the world better. Now that sure sounds superior to me. That's like, right? Our job is to make the world a better place. Your job is not to get in our way. That's yeah. So the truth is, if you take this whole, we all have a role in the world, it seems like we still there's a certain superiority, and usually the minority people. Minority people, there is a certain they may be killing us left or right, but we're still better than them. When I talk the story about poor Passover, so I've told you the story. I only have 5 stories. There's a story. There's a high school teacher, college teacher. I think it was at Miami, Ohio. Miami, Ohio teacher teaching the kids about Bible. The college students about Bible, and he says that Jews are, what did he say? Jews are racist? I forgot what he said, but Jews are something bad. And he takes our own prayer book out. He actually takes the prayer book we use, and it was a prayer about, may God kill all the people who don't accept us and who are, are not our people, kind of thing. And I said, you probably have an anti-Semitic teacher, because what you've got going on here is that a teacher is taking a prayer we use, but if you take it out of context, it does sound like we want everyone dead. But if you take the prayer in context, it was written when we're being murdered left and right. We're hiding in our basements. Imagine a Passover Seder where you have to hide in your basement with your lights off because they'd kill you for having it. And I don't know if you've ever seen this scene where in the old days, you would run upstairs, open your door, say, "Shvochet Chamecha." Okay, nowadays we open our doors and say, "Welcome Elijah the prophet." That's not the original thing we did. And now we do that. We open the door, "Eliyahu Hanavi." That is not what we used to do. What we used to do is we're hiding in our basement. We run upstairs, we open our door. Now, if you ever look closely in your Haggadah, the Elijah the prophet is right near a paragraph that says, "Shvochet Chamecha." Pour out your wrath on all the unbelievers. All right. What was going on there? So what was going on is you would run upstairs, open your door, say, "Shvochet Chamecha," chaput. You would spit. You'd always have to spit. Jews like spitting. And you spit, you slam the door, and you run back and hide. Yeah. Pour out your wrath on everyone. And then you run away and hide so they don't know who said it. So the idea is, if we said, "May God pour out your wrath upon all those," and we're like the president of the United States, we're in complete control and we have all the power, that could be a problem. right? If the person who's in power says kill everyone else, you've got a problem. If you're a slave and you're being murdered left and right, and you're saying, may all the people who are killing me be killed because you know what? They're not being killed. Then it's a prayer of hope. One is a prayer of war, and bloodshed. Another one could be a prayer of hope. If you take prayers out of context, right? So this teacher took a prayer out of context to show that Jews hate everyone, which we don't. Yeah, and we're going to keep going in this class, today's class, on chosenness, but we don't hate everyone. Yeah, we have enough trouble. And then, Amy and I always talk about how do we look at Reform Jews or humanistic Jews, right? Not only do they hate us, we start hating on each other, right? That the first temple is destroyed. There's 2 temples destroyed. They say the first temple is destroyed because the people hated us, but the second temple was destroyed because we hated on each other. They said that the idea is that it was peace, it was hate among each other, destroy the second temple. So here it goes. So it has to start with God. So God, and you might have heard this story too. God is not only concerned with the Jews. God is not Jewish. It's hard. And as much as we all know that, like up here, God is not Jewish, most of us still treat God as a Jew. It's like, so here's another story that you might have heard, because I only have 5 stories. Okay, so this story is there's a kid who's got kicked out of public school because he's got issues, and he goes to Hillel Day School, which is an Orthodox day school in Squirrel Hill, right? Beards and everything, and pay us, and so Orthodox day school. So he's going to this Orthodox day school, and they have a creative writing assignment, and so he turns in a paper, and he gets sent to the office. What is his paper? It's a paper about God coming down to earth. And God's walking among us. What if God was one of us, just a stranger on a bus? So God is walking among us, and God has a cheeseburger. All right, so God eats a cheeseburger. So the teacher is offended by this, sends the kid to the office. The dean, the principal of the school is offended by it. They call the parents, and they call his rabbi, that's me. They go, we have this problem. This kid wrote a paper about God eating a cheeseburger. And I thought about it for a second. I go, so what? Can't God eat a cheeseburger? God's not Jewish. God gave Jews the rule, right? Jews can't eat cheeseburgers. Non-Jews can eat cheeseburgers.
So God doesn't follow kashrut.
God doesn't have to follow kashrut. If you think God follows kashrut, you think God's a Jew. God. So I said, no. Now, of course, they didn't like that answer. They were really kind of hoping I was going to set this kid straight. And I'm like, what's the problem with God eating a cheeseburger? Yeah. Yes, God stuck us with the rules, but God is not a Jew.
And it was a creative writing.
It's creative. So
Yeah, really.
you can see that I wasn't the teacher's pet. Okay, so God is not a Jew. God does not only care about Jews. God is there for everyone. One of my favorite things to do with atheists, right? Because the atheists, they're the true believers, not the agnostics. We're all agnostics. You should be. But an atheist, right? There is no God. They worship. There is no God. And they try to convert everyone. There is no God. I could care less if you believe what I believe, but the atheist, oh my God, they want to convert. So the atheist comes up and he goes, there is no God. I'm like, it's okay. God is still there for you. That really makes them mad. If you want to make an atheist mad, just say that. Yeah, it's okay. God's there for you. But that's the truth in Judaism. In Judaism, God is there for everyone. Even if you rejected God, you could, I don't know, start worshiping Satan, murder 10 people, eat their livers with fava beans, and afterwards, God is still there for you. I mean, God might not be happy with you, but that is still God, right? There's a sign on Mount Lebanon, on Washington Road, in front of St. Paul's good church. If you want to convert out of Judaism, that's a good place. St. Paul's is a nice guy, great guy who runs that place. So nice rabbi, nice minister. So, but on it says, God loves everyone, no exceptions. And at first I'm like, does God love everyone? And I'm like, well, love, okay. Right. I said, it's like my kid. I sometimes like my kid, very rarely, but I guess I love him. But the idea is, sure, Like, even if your kid turned out to be a murderer, Satanist, you might still love your kid. The kid still might have to go to jail or be put to death. You know, you can love the dog who needs to be put down. But the idea is God is there for, God is the God for everyone. It's not just our God, and God is not Jewish. You know, and yet we still, I don't know why we make non-Jews put kippahs on. Okay, here it goes. But what do non-Jews? Okay, so so what are our rules? We just talked about that God doesn't keep kosher. What is the Jewish view of the rest of the world, right? If we're the chosen people, blah, 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 we're a light unto the nations. I had this argument with a rabbi once, and he and I were talking about, you know, in the old days, we're talking about how do you picture you being a rabbi? So me and this other rabbi. So I said, he says he pictures himself like, I don't know if any of you have been to a wedding in Omni William Penn, where there's a railing on the top. He says he pictures like the dance floor and his congregation down there, and he's on there on the railing, like looking down on them. And I said, I picture myself in the middle of the dance floor. I don't dance well, but I still picture myself among the people. And there's two different ways of looking as a rabbi. You can be among the people or separate from the people, right? I remember when I played poker the first time with congregants, Michael Son was the president. He was not happy with me. He's like, you know, you should separate yourself. You know, and I'm like, that's what all the other rabbis did for 100 years. Didn't work for them. All right, so that's why I'm still here. So the idea here is that God, that we are among the people to be a light unto the nations. How can you be a light unto the nations? How can you make the world a better place if you're on top of a mountaintop, right? If the Jew, like I remember this one guy says, I always picture Jews on top of a mountaintop. I said, you can't make the world better being on top of a mountaintop.
So,
You have to be, yes.
You're making correlation between where Jews sit, whether they're among the people or
Right.
they're not God.
Well, God too. Yeah, certainly Judaism believes God is active. God is among us. God is within us. And you can be mad at God. Now, I don't know if anyone was there like very few people were there. Evan Dreyer's funeral was private. So there was like 20 people there. But at his funeral, the Rabbi Mendy was there, Chabad rabbi is there. So one of my lines at the funeral, because it was a really heartbreaking funeral because the guy wasn't supposed to be dead, and he's young, and his kids are there, and one's pregnant, one's getting married, one's graduating, and so I said, if you believe in God, then God makes mistakes. Well, I guess that just destroyed the Chabad rabbi's brain, and he sends me a message at midnight, a long email, actually a short email, and it says, please explain this to me. I don't know what you meant by that. He quotes me, which, I thought was impressive. And so I had to spend like a day the next day. I wrote this like 2-page email to him explaining my theology on how God works or doesn't work in the world. But it was beyond like a Chabad theory. Like, if there's a God, then God makes mistakes. Those two things just killed him. So, and I said that and I explained to him, I said that because that's what the family needed at the time, because saying that, everything's for the good could be really bad. That doesn't work all the time. It works when it works. So what is the Jewish view of non-Jews? Okay, so I go to Catholic school. And I teach them that Jews have 613 mitzvahs, commandments. I say, how many commandments do you have? And they all go, we got 10 commandments. So I'm like, okay, you got 10 commandments, which are hard enough. Yeah, and we got 613 commandments. Fine. And then I explain, well, it's better to have 613 than 10. They always think 613 is too many. And I'm like, yeah, but when you miss 3 of them, you get a 70%. When we miss 3 of them, we still have 600%. So it's much better for grading purposes to have 613 laws than 10. So it's a much easier life. And plus 365 of them are negative commandments, which mean don't do something. So when you're sleeping, you're following 365 commandments. You're not murdering anyone. You're not doing anything bad while you're sleeping. Okay, but here's the deal. We don't believe that the 10 commandments apply to the Catholics. Because they're not, as much as they want to accept the 10 commandments, Judaism believes that there's Jews and everyone else. And so we have 613 commandments. Everyone else doesn't have 10 commandments. They actually have 7 commandments. Thank you. My ringers. Okay, Carol's my ringer. So, and if you were unmuted, some of you would have said it too. So we have that. So the idea is the Torah for the non-Jews is 7 commandments. We have 613. The rest of the world include. Now, I didn't want to upset the Catholics, but we believe they only have 7 commandments. What are the 7 commandments? They're called the Noahide laws. Once upon a time, a long time ago, there was Adam and Eve, blah, blah, blah. The world got bad, and then God started the world over with Noah. Noah comes off the boat, just Noah and his family. So therefore, we all descend from Adam and Eve, but we really all descend from Noah. Noah, we're all Noah's blood, because that's who started the world. So again, so when Noah came off the boat, supposedly, don't look closely in your Torah, you're not going to find it. God gave Noah 7 laws. And so we as Jews believe that the rest of the world has 7 laws. And by the way, I have 2 non-Jews who follow the Noahide laws. They're not becoming Jewish. They're following the 7 Noahide laws. They call themselves Noahides. It's a big thing in Chabad, because Chabad doesn't convert people. They don't convert people to Judaism. That they convert Jews to Judaism. They try to take you and make you Orthodox, or your children and make them Orthodox. But they don't take non-Jews and make them Orthodox. That's not a Chabad thing.
Are non-Jews allowed to go? I mean, can they attend service?
Well, someone just was at a Chabad thing like last week, and they said like most people aren't Jewish. It's good food. So the idea is that but Chabad believe what they tell non-Jews is follow the Noahide laws. By the way, that's what they used to call righteous Gentiles before Holocaust talking became popular. The righteous Gentile was the Gentile who followed the Noahide laws, not they saved Jews in the Holocaust. Nowadays, if you said he's a righteous Gentile, you mean he saved Jews in the Holocaust, which is a righteous Gentile.
Yeah.
I'd rather you do that than keep the 7 Noahide laws. You protect me in the Holocaust, I'm very happy. You don't have to keep kosher. So here's the 7 Noahide laws. According to the Talmud, even the Torah is not only for Jews, but part of the Torah, fine. This is called the 7 mitzvot, the 7 Noahide laws of Noah. 1, and by the way, each of these laws has 2 parts, so it's kind of cheating, and it covers a lot more, but 7 Noahide. Number 1, have only one God and not worship idols. They still hate the idolaters, Neil. That's our next class this coming Thursday night at 7 o'clock with wine and cheese, 7:30 for the class. Why do we hate idolaters? Okay. And we'll probably get into witchcraft because Neil was really into witchcraft. Number 1, have only one God, not worship idols. Okay. So if you worship, if you are a polygamist, polytheist, but if you believe in more than one God and worship idols, you're actually breaking. Then you're a bad human. Okay, these are laws for all humanity. 2, lead a moral life and not commit adultery or incest. Okay, so if you are committing adultery and incest, you're breaking laws. Okay, you don't have to keep kosher. 3, be a useful member of society and don't commit murder. If you commit murder, you can't just say, well, I'm not Jewish, I can commit murder. 4, be honest and not steal. Don't steal, fine. 5, have respect for God and not blaspheme. Yeah, I think the blaspheme is taking God's name in vain. I don't think it means saying, gosh darn it, at a poker table. Okay, number 6, to have courts of law and practice justice. So part of the laws for humanity is to set up a court system. And number 7, be kind to animals and not be cruel to them. So if you're mean to animals, then you are breaking one of the 7 Noahide laws. These are the 7 laws: not kosher, not Shabbat, any others. Honor your father and mother, you might be able to throw in there somewhere. But the 10 commandments these are not the 10 commandments. Now, these commandments could cover a lot of other laws, but these are the 7 Noahide laws. And they're not keep the holidays, Passover and Sukkot and Shavuot. It's a different. These are the 7. And
Does that make them vegetarians if they're kind to animals?
no, you can still. We're supposed to be kind of animals, and we're not vegetarians. So no, there's still an idea that the animals are put there to eat. Now I'm a vegetarian, so many rabbis say I'm breaking Jewish law by being a vegetarian. By being a vegetarian, I'm not allowing the animal to fulfill its purpose.
But
Silly.
If we get to, I think it's Deuteronomy.
Yep.
Might not be your.
Deuteronomy.
That seething a kid in its mother's milk. and
Yeah.
We do
Not
that.
eating
Right.
cheeseburgers and all that.
That's so interesting.
if Christianity accepts the Torah.
Right. Ah,
yeah,
okay.
Pentateuch, what, whichever term you want to use.
Two parts to this. Okay, so anyone who was there this past Thursday, when Leah Lample talked about do not cook a baby goat's mother's milk. By the way, I know you're on Zoom. You can always unmute yourself and ask a question, just like people here. Okay, so you feel free to ask a question while I'm talking. So Leah Lample brought up do not cook a baby goat's mother's milk, and she said she loved how it was so humane not to cook a baby goat's mother's milk. And I said, but the rabbis say that cook a baby goat's mother's milk is purely not about protecting animals, but about not mixing milk and meat, right? It doesn't, I even though I agree with Leah that I think it was humane to not cook a baby goat's mother's milk, maybe even unhealthy to cook something in his own mother's milk, that I still don't eat cheeseburgers. But the funny thing is, what you just said was, but don't Christians have the Old Testament? There's a ton of laws in the Old Testament that they don't do. They eat lobster. Eating lobster is an abomination in the Torah. All right, circumcision. So if we're about to, when we finish, we have 4 more books of the Bible. We've been studying on Wednesday mornings. We got to the book of Daniel. We're taking a break. We got Ezra and Nehemiah, and then the Chronicles, I think. We're going to do the New Testament next, because it's interesting what the New Testament does is it gets rid of the Old Testament laws. Remember this whole thing about the new Jew that Ann Coulter says, I'm the new Jew. Christians think they're the new Jews. There was an idea of replacement theory, and that is so all the rules in the Old Testament are replaced with the New Testament rules, where Judaism doesn't replace the Old Testament rules.
Yeah.
The Talmud elaborates it. Now, again, the Talmud gets to say, do not cook a baby goat's mother's milk is no cheeseburgers. God never says no cheeseburgers, right? God says, don't cook a baby goat's mother's milk. By the way, what was interesting about your question is, back to the Torah for the non-Jews, since you and I, and maybe Leah Lample, she's not here today, but if Leah was here, we would say cooking a baby goat's mother's milk is not being kind to animals, but the rabbis.
But doesn't the Talmud we don't take what they say literally.
Correct. So that's what's interesting about the Torah for the non-Jews. Non-Jews couldn't read the Torah and read these 7 laws in it. It's hard. You can't find this list of laws. So there's an irony to this. So Jews believe, Judaism, I'm not going to say Jews because most Jews don't know this exists. Judaism, traditional Judaism doesn't believe that the 613 laws apply to non-Jews, just the 7 laws. But there's no way that a non-Jew can know the 7 laws without knowing what the rabbis interpreted as the 7 laws, which is ironic. Yeah. So yes, they superseded the Old Testament laws, but they also don't know the 7 laws because it never said really in the Torah, all of humanity has to follow these 7 laws. We only, so it's a Jewish view on what humanity should do. So that's exactly it in our interpretation of it. So
why don't Christians go back and at least review the Old Testament?
Some do. We talked about this in some class where I said, we're studying Talmud, and Talmud is a 10,000 page confusing document. So the Talmud, no one has it in their back pocket saying, oh, here's a Talmud. I'm going to read it on vacation on the beach. So the Talmud is so few people know the Talmud. So you only get what the rabbi teaches you kind of thing. And I said in church, there are churches who don't have their people read the Bible. They only take what comes out of their mouth. And one of the students who grew up Catholic said that's exactly how it worked. They never were allowed to read the Bible. They could only read what we're taught. All right. So back to it's funny. I've had 2 Jews convert from Christianity, and in 2 cases,
Christianity?
Oh yeah, no, 2 from Christianity.
Oh.
But I've had 2 over the years who, why did they convert? Their church started a Bible study. They all were studying the Old Testament, and they're like, wait a second, we're in the wrong religion, and they converted to Judaism. They're very good Jews now, and they're very knowledgeable. But the idea is that some find the Old Testament dangerous, right? So they only study the New Testament. Some study the Old Testament with Christian thought in mind. Again, if a Jew only studied the Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible, you would not know how to be Jewish. I had this one student asked me last week what happened to sacrifices, and I said, here it is. What's the story? They're Christian. Okay, I think I'm gonna get this right. So this is a few days ago. Someone said to me, their Christian, crazy, Bible thumping threat friend, neighbor said to them, who's Jewish, and they said, I don't understand how you're Jewish. I mean, Jesus fixed everything. I mean, they're just very confused. And they said that when Jesus died, or Jesus got rid of sacrifices. Yeah, so that Jews stopped sacrificing once Jesus came along. And I'm like, the timing's close, because maybe he died around 30, and the second temple was destroyed in year 70, but we kept sacrificing after Jesus died. I said, and most Jews didn't know Jesus existed. They were like, yeah, we have the Talmud that will say, I think I heard of some guy in Bethlehem. Josephus says, I heard about some guy in Bethlehem who's got a following, but most Jews didn't know he existed. They didn't have the internet. He wasn't on TikTok, and his stuff was written 70 years after he was dead. So most people didn't know he existed when he lived. And certainly he did not get rid of sacrifices. He may have overturned some tables in the temple because it was corrupt, which I believe it was corrupt. But so to understand, that the Old Testament is not, none of our religions follow the Old Testament. We're not sacrificing animals. We're not killing rebellious sons. And if you do, you go to jail for murder. Because the Talmud says don't kill your rebellious son. So Judaism, there's a question. Is Judaism a universalistic religion or a particularistic religion? And it's kind of in the middle because we're Jews. So it's not a universal religion. We don't believe everyone. There are religions who believe like everyone is them or something like that. Where was I? The Baha'i. I love Baha'i. Great. We want to stay a great religion, Baha'i. And anyone can be a Baha'i, but you can't be Jewish and Baha'i. Kind of like the people who say they're Jewish Buddhists. Those are kind of different, even though we do Torah yoga. Don't get me started. So Judaism is not a universal religion. We don't think everyone is Jewish. Everyone's got a little Jew in them. But the idea is but it is open to anyone who wants it. We're not anti-conversion either. You may have seen scenes. Oh yeah, the most famous place in the Torah. Sex and the City. So in Sex and the City, when Charlotte wanted to become Jewish, she went to the rabbi, and the rabbi slammed the door in her face, and she called, and he hung up on her. And then her husband or fiance says, "Oh, you got to go 3 times," and and that's how everyone learned about Judaism, from Sex and the City and Charlotte's conversion. And the whole turning a person away 3 times is not because we don't like converts. Actually, Jewish law says if you don't like converts, you're a bad Jew. That the Torah says, God loves the convert. The Talmud says to insult a convert is worse than, being not Jewish. And so the conversion is a huge thing in Judaism. But where did it come from that the rabbi turns away a person 3 times? Historically speaking, once upon a time, it was against the law to convert people to Judaism, right? When you're among, I don't know, anyone, and they say, rabbis, if you convert anyone to Judaism, you will be put to death. So they would send spies to the rabbi. They would knock on the door. I want to convert to Judaism. If the rabbi said yes, dead. So you send away 3 times because the spies are lazy. And the spies don't come back 3 times. So the rabbis would turn away people 3 times to make sure they were legit. Okay. And for some reason, the only thing Jews remember, they don't remember to keep kosher. Yeah, but they remember turn away a person 3 times. Every Jew seems to know that one. So what happens is nowadays there are still rabbis who turn away people 3 times. And the Jew on the street thinks it's because we don't like conversion. Right? I had a
interesting because I just always thought it was to test the sincerity.
Well, and that's kind of what people say now. We turn you away 3 times to make sure you're sincere. But it's true, but it was from a historical moment in time. Obviously, if we didn't believe in conversion, there had been one Jew named Abraham. He would have lived, he would have died, the end. There are religions. There's like one religion, not the Quakers, something like Quakers, but it's not Quakers. Some religion doesn't believe in conversion. They're dead. They died out. Surprise.
That's why we can't remember.
Yeah, they don't live long if you don't believe in conversion. And So yeah, Abraham, good, good, good. Oh yeah, I had a secretary in Augusta, Georgia. She was an angry woman, and she's like, and I do all these conversions, right? 'Cause especially the Baptists. They're all Baptists down in Augusta, Georgia. They love converting. So the Baptist, so I have like all these conversion students, and she's so mad at me because she hates conversion. I'm like, why do you hate converts? She goes, I don't accept conversions. I go, I don't understand. You don't accept any converts. She goes, no. I go, but I had a classmate who was a convert. He's a rabbi, not a Jew. I go, wait a second. Yeah,
She
King
was
David.
100%
I
Jewish?
said, Root, huh?
She was 100% Jewish?
She thinks she is. I don't think any white person's 100% Jewish, by the way, because we didn't look like this. Yeah, because Jesus was black. Okay, so we're Semitic people, and we all look like we came from, like someone slept with a Norseman. Okay, here it goes. But all right, so back to this conversation I'm having with my secretary. So I go, you don't accept converts. I go, well, Ruth converted Judaism, not a Jew. I said, but if Ruth's not a Jew, King David, who descended from Ruth, is not a Jew. King David is not a Jew. She's sticking to it. She's like, the Messiah is going to come from King David, not a Jew. So I'm like, okay, how about this one? Abraham converted to Judaism.
Nope.
And she didn't talk to me for 2 weeks. I got no phone calls. Even if you died, the rabbi she didn't even let me know someone died and for like 2
There
weeks.
was no conversion. Where did she think she came from?
She didn't care. The reason she was so angry, I found out why she was so angry. Her son was dating a non-Jewish girl. She went to the rabbi before me. He was mean to converts. And so he turned her away and she never came back. So because conversion didn't work for her family, she decided that she had some baggage. All right, but Judaism does not believe. So Judaism is not anti-conversion, but we don't believe in forced conversion. Now, proselytizing is kind of an interesting word. So we don't believe that you go outside of a church, like Jews for Jesus. You go outside of a synagogue and say, Judaism is wrong, ask me why. We're not supposed to go in front of a church, say Christianity is wrong, ask me why, and open up a church, a synagogue next door and call us Christians without Christ. So that would be it. Jews for Jesus, Christians without Christ. So the idea is that, but people, of course, you know me, I'm a little crazy. I would love to put a billboard up on the freeway that says,
Here we go.
don't like your religion, not speaking to you, try Judaism. I know no one's going to do it. No one's giving me the money for the billboard, but yeah, I also have some, I already have the bumper sticker, because I would quote the line in the Torah, in the Bible that says, go to Bethel, but I would only put like Job 3:16. I would put the one that said, or like, whatever they like some line. I would like Genesis 5:14. That's all it would say on the bumper sticker. And the Bible people would read it and maybe would have our address on the bottom. Yeah, of course, we want a bunch of crazy people coming. But no, I believe
security, please.
So I'm a believer that if a person's not happy in the religion, they should try Judaism. By the way, I'm a true believer that if you don't like Judaism, try another religion. That's why many parents in Bethel are mad at me, because what happens is they send me their son-in-laws to be and sons-in-law to be and daughters, and they want me to convert them. And I'll talk to them. And in the old days, you're like, remember in the 1980s, we were taught you got to pick a religion. But that in the 1980s and Newsweek, it said you shouldn't get intermarried. You should pick a religion. But the thing they taught us rabbis was pick a religion. It doesn't have to be Judaism. So when we came out of rabbi school, we're like, pick a religion, even if it's not my religion. So these people would send their kids to me and like, I would meet with them and say, have you thought about Judaism? But when they said no, then I'm supposed to say to the Jew, have you thought about her religion? So many parents were not happy with me.
You've made that statement. Did the Jew decide to go with the maid?
No, I know there's Jews who convert to Christianity, but so rare, especially in the conservative movement, because finding a conservative Jew who believes in anything is one thing. Getting them to believe in Jesus. I mean, I had a guy who called me up and said his son's converting to Christianity because he's marrying this girl and she will only marry him if he converts. So he's converting. I said, yeah, but he doesn't believe in any. Oh, that's interesting. Hello. Okay. Yeah. You already told me. All right. It's about to get loud. If you want to close that door, I don't, hopefully it's probably gonna make it from there. They're having a training upstairs and that blue thing's gonna go off. So it's gonna loud, I think. Okay, I'll move the microphone closer. So I do, yeah, I do believe in conversion. I just believe that if I'm going to respect a person converting to Judaism, I should respect someone coming out of Judaism. I have not found a lot of Jews converting out of Judaism. But I'm a big believer in conversion. I just think that, and I don't think religion's for everyone, but I also think Judaism's for everyone. And okay, fine. Okay. Yeah, I don't like anything else on these pages, righteous Gentiles. I think that's it. Okay, so we have 8 minutes of questions and this alarm going off. So conversion, 7 Noahide laws, view of non-Jews, universalistic, particularistic, anti-Semites. What do you want for chosenness? Neil, you unmuted yourself. What's up?
I would say for me, the idea of chosen is we should live, live by the rules. I mean, I've got into this discussion, I don't know, maybe with you or somebody about how it bothers me when a Jew breaks the law.
Mhm.
If a Jew gets arrested for money laundering, because I feel we should set a higher standard for ourselves. And I thought it was interesting in the sermon, what was it, last week, where she made a comment, murder is almost unheard of in Judaism, but, financial crimes, are pretty high in the Jewish world. And it bothers me that when we're involved in stuff like that, because I just feel like we should set a higher ideal for ourselves.
And as much as I hate to admit it, I agree that it's all giving Jews a bad name, right? Here's a term I never use, but I've heard, Ashana de Goyim. Okay, let me unmute you because we're getting that feedback again. Okay, so the idea that we don't want to give the anti-Semites ammunition, right? When Bernie Madoff gets arrested, there's a lot of people saying, aha, the whole cheap Jew kind of thing. How's that up there? Okay, so the idea is that, there is an idea that we do have someone. Oh, when I go to a Steelers game, I wear a kippah, right? But when I go to a Steelers game, I wear a baseball cap so no one knows, and I wear my Catholic hat. But I don't wear my kippah because if I start cursing at Ben Roethlisberger, I don't want someone saying there's a dirty mouth Jew. So there is an idea that we don't, I say this about a person who wears a cross, you would think the person who wears a cross is going to behave a little better because they represent Christianity. I feel like, yes, the Jew, as much as we might not like it, we do have a responsibility to behave, a little better, because if not, we're going to give all Jews a bad name. Okay, Neil, you unmute yourself again. What do you got?
I don't think that's quite my point. I just,
Okay.
I don't worry what the Gentiles say. I feel what is more important is that we set a high standard for ethical behavior.
Okay.
Since that to me is what being chosen is about, is that we set a high bar for ourselves. The other thing that is an aside. So I'm on this business trip last week. I'm in rural America. I go into this farm store we do business with, and I have all this Christian rock music playing. And, it's interesting because we just don't make, as Jews go, we just don't really do the hard sell.
Right.
It's all like, Jesus, thanks for saving me and all that. And I'm walking around this farm store thinking, this is just not me.
Right.
And it is interesting to me. You never hear about a Jewish rock group that I know of, and we just don't push it.
Yeah.
We're a believer in a soft sell.
Uh, It's so number one, they have better music, but we probably made it all like we made all the Christmas music. So if you look behind, like on all the Christmas music, most of it's written by Jews. Yeah, you're right. We don't believe in the hard sell. Yeah. Now, partly we don't believe in the hard sell because they used to kill us for it, and we don't want a target on our back. I mean, Judaism did believe in the hard sell once. Abraham's job was to convert the world. Well, not the world, but as many people as possible. The Midrash says that Abraham had, when God says to Abraham, Lech lecha, go from your home and visit all around, it was so they compared him to a vial of perfume, and that he was supposed to walk around and everyone could smell and join him. So there was an idea that we're supposed to sell Judaism, not like you're going to hell if you don't, but there is a Jewish view that we're supposed to proselytize, but it's not the same thing as forced proselytization. But yeah, you're right. We don't do the hard sell, but we used to. All right, what do you got, Heidi?
I was just gonna say, when I was in
Oh,
high
that's not
school, there was a couple guys that would go through and would sit there
Okay.
and would make notation on anything that you saw, whether it's movies that were coming out, new ones. They would sit there and throw up in my face and a few of my Jewish friends, like, see, you Jews are behind everything. You do everything. You have your hand in everything.
Right.
It's all your fault.
Right.
Just look at the credits on half the movies.
Right,
You're
right.
all Jewish. You're
Right.
all like, yeah. So it was always being,
Yeah.
being put down and dealing with anti-Semitic thoughts
Yeah.
because we were Jewish.
Right.
And Jews were doing more than or being recognized for things.
It's interesting. So yes, we try not to have, and again, that's like an apologetic, right? So we're like, we're sorry that we're so good at entertainment or banking, or, we have so many Nobel
Medicine,
Prize
yeah.
winners, huh?
Medicine.
Right? Yeah. And by the way, so
But
my son goes to,
benefited from it, though.
my son goes to medical school, and I don't think there were too many Jews on that class, so it's we're being replaced. It's okay. Yeah. So we're falling behind in the minorities who are in school. It's not all Jews anymore in medical school, or
But that goes back, one time there was a quota, how many Jews.
there was right.
Admittance.
But we did. So the idea is, and we saw this actually in the Hungarian class 9 Jews class, where they said, one of the Jews said, I have to be the best because I'm Jewish. And if I'm not the boss, I'm going to get fired. Right. So, there's an idea that we have to be on the top, or else they're going to keep, because we're Jewish, they're not going to let us. So,
Or more so if you're not good enough, you will be blamed because
Sure.
you weren't behaving. On the flip side, of
people are
that.
always looking to blame the Jews. So yeah, it's a problem. And I think that's partly why we don't compete with, even the whole Christmas Hanukkah thing. There's an idea that if you start competing, like when I moved here, there was a real move for like getting the Christmas tree out of something. And so I saw like a pretty anti-Semitic letter from the editor in Pittsburgh Family Magazine about there are people who are trying to destroy Christmas. Who are these people? There's these people and they don't celebrate Christmas and they're trying to ruin it for everyone else. That's not good for us. It's anti-Semitic, but it's also not good for us because most people are ignorant. I don't think most people are flaming anti-Semites, but most people are ignorant, and you could take advantage of people's fear. I mean, look what's going on in America today. I tell a story when we study anti-Semitism that in Augusta, Georgia, there was a letter that went out to it was stuck in your mailbox, and it said, you bring this letter in. Now, this is Augusta, Georgia. They don't know what a Jew is, right? And you open up your mail and you open up this letter, this piece of paper, and it says, everyone, there's a conspiracy going on, infiltration conspiracy kind of thing. Go into your cabinets and look at your food. Take your Campbell soups and your bottles of water. Look closely. You might think it's an OR or an OC, but if you find an OU on your food, that is Jew tax. And every time you buy something, you're paying a Jew tax. And guess what? If this person actually looked it up on the internet, what the OU is, there's truth to it. Right. So the truth is that if you buy something with OU on it, like almost everything in the world, that some of that money goes to the OU. It's a kosher symbol. And most people don't notice that kosher symbol, but it could feed on ignorant fear, right? It's genius. It's actually quite genius. It was the local KKK really thought about something. They took people who are on the sidelines who could care less and made them look at their food and like, huh, I'm paying a Jew tax, right? That's all you need. Sometimes I'm struggling to make a living, and a penny of my food or two, it's all going to the Jews.
Now,
They-
the flip side of
Yeah.
it, several years ago, because we purposely now mispronounce a word at home. But several years ago, I was talking with a woman whose, I guess, grandson had lactose intolerance.
Okay.
And she was telling a bunch of us sitting there, and I was probably the only Jewish person in the room, that in order to buy things that her grandson can eat, you had to look on the label.
If it owe you.
No, PARV.
Oh.
Or just you.
Right.
Simple you.
No, because it could have cheese in it and still be OU.
Oh, before there was D's. There was a time before D's.
Yeah.
It was just,
Yeah.
in
Okay.
fact, John showed me something yesterday that just had the OU and no designation.
Yeah.
But considering the ingredients.
Yeah, no,
It was crackers.
it's,
Something crackers.
you could use that to know
Yeah, but
that it's
they now
healthy
say
too.
That it can be, people get very anal about.
Gert, I'm
anything
coming to
that's
you.
Even
Exposed to something.
right on a machine or something that could have been, have a pinch of dairy on it, which.
All right, Gerda, here we go. Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes, I think it's very interesting, the political ad concerning Doug Mastriani and talking about the Jews that were killed, the 11 Jews in Pittsburgh, and other commentary, how anti-Semitic this particular man would be, and he should not be
Elected.
elected. But all of
Read the Chronicle every week. This guy's a mess. But look, but the whole country, it's like you have one extreme or the other, that's what this is what we're getting. There's no more moderates anymore. God forbid. Yeah.
I just thought it was interesting
Yeah.
hearing that.
Yeah.
I mean,
And he's trying to,
I'm voting for him, don't get me wrong, but I was glad to hear it. I
Yeah.
was glad.
So did you
Yeah.
make a
Gerda?
donation knowing what that?
Gerda, I'm with you. Well, I don't know. Gerda, I'm with you. I'd rather know than not know. I'm a big believer that information, can be scary, but I'd rather know all about Doug Mastriano than not know. It's scary. It's scary thinking that he could win. But it's even more scary that we wouldn't know when he won. At least we know what's out there. So whenever they show a video of someone, hiling in a Mangiano's restaurant in Washington, D.C., I like their pictures being disseminated among the people. So, I'm with you. Okay, so next class is going to be on the Bible, the Old Testament, the 24 books of the Bible, the Tanakh. So we're going to be looking at the Bible next time.
September 25th.
And it's going to be, let me tell you a date, August, September. Let me see, is the 25th going to work? That is,
No, that's Erev Yom Tov.
it is Erev Yom Tov, and it's my cemetery service. So where did I move it is the question. Let's find where I moved it to. It looks like it's going to be Thursday night, the 29th at 7:00. Okay, so what's that?
What month?
September.
What's the day again?
Okay, so we're moving from Rosh Hashanah Eve, which is going to have a cemetery service that morning, and it's going to move to Thursday, the 29th at 7:00.
And this class is only an hour, right?
This is an hour and it's Zoom only on Thursday night.
Hey, Rabbi, make sure you record the class Thursday. Sadly, my flight doesn't arrive till 8:30.
Oh, you're the idolater
I
class?
can't believe I'm missing this. But
Yeah.
it's gonna be tough to move it given the holidays are coming up.
Yeah, I understand. All right, well,
But
then,
I'm kind of bummed. Yes.
I'll-
Please do.
I'll record it and you can unmute yourselves. I got to drive to Washington DC and back to drop my kid off at school. So I'm hitting the road. Okay. And thank you for being here, John and Carol and Heidi and Leah and Deanne, Marlise and Linda and Edie and Myra and Carol and Agerta and Abe and Shelley and Joan and Irv, Richard and Ellen, Neil. All right.
When
So,
you get pulled over, make sure you show them the rabbi thing.
yeah, yeah,
Tell them you're on the way to the funeral, man. You got to get there in
I've
time.
done it. I've done it before, but this
how
one
is
I'd
it
have no
ethical?
excuse. I did it
That's
for when I was on the way to a funeral. So that's the truth. Now I couldn't do it. And that I'm a believer that when you get pulled over by the cop, you're like, good for you. I deserve it. People have been in the car before. That's what I say when they pull me over.
Well,
Like,
you tell them
good
there's
for
a
you. I
bumblebee
deserve
in
it.
your car. That's what
In the
you
old
say.
days, I don't get tickets anymore. Yeah, but in the old days, that's what I'd say. I'm a big believer in the law. So I'm like, I think that, yeah, I should be pulled over. So,
Well, I really enjoyed your discussion earlier this week about